Thousands of years ago, God chose the nation of Israel to reveal His greatness and His love to the entire world through His relationship with them. But over and over again, the nation of Israel turned from worshiping God to worshiping the false gods of other nations. And whenever this happened, the nation of Israel had to face the consequences of their actions.
Hey, you're from the nation of Israel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill you and enslave your people now. This is unfortunate.
And it was unfortunate. But God never gave up on Israel, no matter how many times they turned away from Him. Out of His great love, God would send messengers to turn back the hearts of Israel to worshiping Him. These messengers were known as prophets.
You should stop making up fake gods and return to worshiping the only true God.
But Israel didn't always listen.
Hey, you're a prophet, right? Yup.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill you now.
This is unfortunate.
And it was. Well, one time God sent a prophet named Elijah to tell the people of Israel to stop worshiping a false god named Baal, who they claimed controlled the weather.
People of Israel, unless you return to worshiping the true God who controls the weather and rain instead of this fake god named Baal,
dang, this dude roasting hard on Baal,
then there will be no rain in all of Israel for the coming years.
Yeah, I think we should kill this guy.
This is unfortunate.
And so instead of returning to the true God, the people of Israel wanted Elijah dead, and so Elijah fled. And for the next 3 years, there was no rain in Israel. But eventually, God sent Elijah back to the people of Israel with another message.
Okay, so that last thing didn't work, but God has sent me with another plan to turn you back to Him. I, a prophet of the one true God, am challenging the prophets of Baal to a duel.
I'll go get my guns.
Wait, not like that. Both me and the prophets of Baal will build altars, mine to a real God that actually exists, and theirs to Baal.
Rip Baal!
Baal slam!
We both will pray for fire from heaven, and whoever's God actually exists will set the altars on fire. Sound good? And it did. It did sound good. So both sets of prophets set up their altars, and the prophets of Baal went first. They began praying early in the morning, and they prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, but by noon, nothing had happened. Well, except for Elijah's consistent roasting. I'm sorry, maybe you're not praying loud enough for Baal to hear you. I mean, maybe he's asleep or sitting on the toilet or something.
This is really embarrassing, you guys.
Well, it should be. I mean, you've been praying forever. Maybe you should text him that you've got pizza. I mean, that always works for me. I mean, I may not answer my phone, but if someone's like, I got pizza, then I'd be like, what's up? But Baal didn't even respond to their text. Maybe that's because he uses T-Mobile.
T-Mobile slam!
So now it was Elijah's turn, and instead of simply praying, Elijah upped the challenge. He asked the prophets of Baal to dump water on his altar so it would be harder to set on fire, and he had them do this 3 times, soaking the altar. And then after that, Elijah prayed. God in heaven, let it be known today that you are the only true God. I want these people watching to know you and to worship you, so send fire down from heaven to prove who you are. And at this prayer, God sent fire down from heaven and set the altar ablaze. Now, full disclosure, my wife won't let me set this table on fire in the house, so instead I'm sending down the new Drake song because that track is fire. Now, when the prophets of Baal saw the fire from heaven, they knew that there was only one true God, the God of Elijah and Israel.
What do you think about when you think about God? Maybe you think about him like Santa Claus, like he's watching you all the time and keeping a list of all the good and bad things you do, and if you do too much bad, no heaven for you. Maybe you think of him like a vending machine, where if you pray the right prayers and push the right buttons, he'll give you what you want in life. Maybe you think of someone who wants to control you, or maybe you think of something else entirely. But I truly believe that the most important thing about you and me is what we think about when we think about God. Because we were made for relationship with God, and so what we think about him will determine what we think about life and how we live it. Even if you're here today and you're not sure you believe in God, your thoughts about God affect what you do and how you live in some way. Unfortunately, much of what we think about God has not come from what Jesus said about God, but from other things. Often, many of the negative things we end up thinking about God actually come from Christians. Sadly, those of us who follow Jesus and are meant to represent God in this world have often done a bad job of showing others what God is really like. Because we judge others, many people think that God is full of judgment and condemnation. Because we don't accept people who don't act like us or believe what we believe, many people believe that God is the same way. And instead of knowing the God that Jesus showed us, we have a lot of thoughts about God that are not based on who he really is. And so just as Elijah wanted to reveal the true God to the people of his day, over the course of the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about who God really is. We want to talk about the God that we wish everyone knew. And so the best place to start when it comes to knowing God is to start with Jesus. You see, around here we believe that there really was a man named Jesus who lived 2,000 years ago. He claimed to be the Son of God. In fact, he once said, "Whoever has seen me has seen the Father," meaning God the Father. Jesus is saying God and I are one and the same. If you see how I act and how I treat people and what I care about, you'll see how God acts and treats people and what he cares about. And I know this sounds like something a crazy person would say, and I could maybe agree with you if this same man didn't predict his own death and resurrection from the dead and then pull it off. Anyone who can do that probably is the Son of God. And so if we want to know what God is like, we need to start by seeing what Jesus was like. And Jesus' life proved what one writer of the Bible wrote, that God is love. Everything about God is loving, and there is no one in this world that God does not love. So if we want to know the true God, we have to start with love. So today in your groups, talk about why it's so important that we learn who the true God is and how Jesus can help us to see God, and then we'll move on.